All of humanity has been transported into the stomachs of giant 100-ton fish. In a world with only oceans and no land, the giant fish periodically swallow seawater containing supply boxes, which flow into their stomachs. Upon opening these, people can obtain water and food, as well as tools or blueprints beneficial for survival in the stomach. The giant fish also swallow dangerous marine creatures, and humans must continuously develop to survive. The giant fish feeds on algae, and each time it eats, a large amount of seawater flows into its stomach. After the seawater is drained, a large amount of algae is left behind. At this time, the giant fish stops swimming and digests the algae in its stomach. The seaweed moves very slowly towards the digestive pool in the stomach. Because I acquired a special ability to hear the giant fish's inner voice, I learned that if I actively throw seaweed into the digestion pool, it will speed up the fish's digestion, allowing it to swim longer, so I receive more supplies than others every day. But this time, while transporting seaweed, an accident happened. My arm was somehow cut with a long wound, and I hurriedly retreated, followed by the sound of a shell hitting the flesh wall echoing around. Because my arm was bleeding continuously, I needed to quickly find a way to bandage it, so holding my breath, I slowly approached the pile of seaweed. Finally, I saw the appearance of that unknown creature. It was an unusually large shrimp, with a sharp spike on its head. My arm was probably cut by that spike, but it didn't seem aggressive, only able to keep bouncing in place. At this moment, my fear subsided, followed by anger, because I currently have no medical supplies and might die from wound infection. I angrily kicked the large shrimp away to prevent it from scratching me again with its sharp spike. Then I tore a strip of cloth from my underwear and did a simple bandage to stop the bleeding. After that, I continued to transport the seaweed to the digestion pool. However, every time I reached out, I became very cautious to avoid encountering a second large shrimp. After moving all the seaweed, I started thinking about how to deal with this big shrimp. I actually considered kicking it directly into the digestion pool, but I was a bit reluctant. If I could peel off its hard shell intact, it could cover my forearm and provide some defense against aggressive creatures in the future. The sharp spike on its head could also be used as a knife. Thinking of this, I decided to deal with the big shrimp. I picked up a piece of wood from the supply box and swung it directly at the shrimp, then kept hitting its vulnerable head for a good 10 minutes until it was dead. I placed one foot on the shrimp's body and stomped hard on its head with the other, breaking the sharp spike. Then I picked up the spike and slowly peeled off the shrimp's shell. Looking at the translucent shrimp meat, I swallowed hard. I thought it would be great if I had fire, mainly because I'm not used to eating raw meat, especially raw meat from this unknown world, so I'm even more hesitant to eat it raw. At this moment, the space inside the stomach started to tremble slightly, indicating that the giant fish was beginning to move. After placing the shrimp meat into the supply box, I glanced at the simply bandaged wound on my arm, which was already seeping blood. I knew that such a simple treatment wouldn't work, so I opened the World Trading Channel on the system interface to see if I could trade for medical items to stop the bleeding, but most people were currently trying to exchange food, which made me very anxious. Fortunately, after some persistent searching, I finally saw a listing for medical items. 1 medical hemostatic bandage in exchange for 3 loaves of bread. Medical items are lifesavers, first come, first served. I frowned and muttered, 3 loaves of bread is too much. But my arm has already started bleeding, I can't delay any longer. But now I only have 2 pieces of bread, which is not enough for the trade. So I clicked on the trader's profile and decided to negotiate. Friend, 3 pieces of bread is too much. How about 1? The other party quickly replied, no, this is a life-saving item. Look at the trading channel. No one else is trading medical supplies. What's wrong, brother? Are you injured? I didn't plan to tell the truth to avoid the other party raising the price. Not really. It's just that I'm very crisis aware, so I like to be prepared early. That's true, buddy. You make a good point, so I won't trade my medical bandage and will keep it for emergencies. Thanks for the reminder, buddy. I got anxious. Come on, friend. How about 2 pieces of bread? Buddy, you're actually injured, aren't you? I knocked, and he found out, but thinking about it, it's only the 2nd day in this world, and while most people are trading food, I'm the only one wanting to trade for medical supplies, which already indicates a problem. 2 pieces of bread and a bottle of mineral water. That's all the food I have left. If you still won't trade, there's nothing I can do. I sent this message with determination, and it really is all my food. If the trade succeeds, I'll only have 2 bottles of mineral water left. If today's 3 supply boxes don't contain any food, then I'll have to survive on just water. Hey buddy, don't think so badly of people. I won't raise the price on the spot. How about this? I'll trade with you for 1 piece of bread and a bottle of mineral water. Seeing this message, I was immediately delighted, but it also felt a bit unrealistic. Could it be that I've met a good person? Sure enough, the trade message from the other party changed to 1 bread and 1 bottle of water. I clicked exchange without hesitation. The bread and mineral water in the supply box glowed blue and then instantly disappeared, replaced by a roll of medical bandage. I immediately picked it up, unwrapped the cloth on the wound, and used half a bottle of mineral water to painfully clean the wound before wrapping it up. The bleeding finally stopped. At this moment, a private message popped up on the system interface. "Hey buddy, you see, I didn't take advantage of your situation. Could you tell me how you got injured?" I chuckled softly. This is a smart person, clearly trying to do me a favor and find out the cause of my injury from me. After all, the stomach wall space of the giant fish is surrounded by soft flesh, making it really difficult to get injured. So, why I got injured is naturally important information, and I didn't hide it. I directly told the other person about the big shrimp incident. Not long after the conversation ended, the sound of seawater came from the direction of the esophagus. I quickly moved the algae cultivation tank next to the esophageal membrane, where it would be least impacted by the seawater. Then I placed several supply boxes on top of the algae cultivation tank, just above the water level, so I wouldn't have to lift the supply boxes each time. After the seawater receded, a new supply box arrived this time. I obtained 10 stones, 10 portions of soil, and 10 portions of dry grass. Why is it all materials? I need food, and now I only have one piece of bread left. After a while, the giant fish swallowed a second supply box. I got a blueprint for a small planting box. Although it's not food, I was still a bit surprised. Just from the name, you can tell the planting box is for growing food, but I'm still missing some materials and can't make it yet. A few hours later, the last supply box was washed in. Before opening it, I prayed, "Please, give me food." Obtain 1 apple and 1 banana. Well, it is food. Although it's fruit and not as filling as bread, it can barely sustain me until the day after tomorrow. At this moment, the sound of the giant fish echoed in my mind. Oh, I'm tired. Going to sleep. So I also went to rest. When the giant fish started moving again, I woke up too. Now, I just have to wait for the giant fish to feed. In the meantime, I opened the World Communication channel to check on other survivors. Guys, I'm out of food. I only have 1 watermelon seed left. Can anyone help me trade for a piece of bread? Watermelon seeds are useless. We don't even know how to plant them now, and you still want to trade for a piece of bread? Dude, stop shouting. You've been shouting since yesterday. Right now, each person only gets 1 supply box per day, and whether you get food depends entirely on luck. Most people are short on food. Who would trade for useless watermelon seeds? Seeing this message, I thought for a moment. Watermelon seeds must be able to be planted in a planting box. So I clicked on that person's avatar and sent a message. The other person quickly replied, "Bro, do you want to trade watermelon seeds?" "Yes, but I'm not trading for bread, but for raw shrimp meat." "No problem, as long as it's edible. But bro, where did you get the shrimp?" The other person was obviously a bit surprised, so I briefly explained how I got the shrimp meat. I'm not used to eating raw meat, and it would spoil in a few days, so I decided to trade it for your watermelon seeds. "Thank you so much, big brother." The next second, the watermelon seeds were directly traded over. "Wow, this shrimp meat is really big. Big brother, my name is Newziku. If you ever need my help in the future, I will definitely not hesitate." "No worries, it's the right thing to do." After exchanging a few polite words, I closed the system interface. After a while, the giant fish started feeding, and I prepared to transport seaweed. Fearing another attack by the large shrimp, I put on the shrimp shells I peeled off yesterday on my forearm for protection. Then before each transport of seaweed, I would carefully make a few cuts in the seaweed. Sure enough, I encountered 3 large shrimp, even more than yesterday. But because of the sharp spikes, I easily dealt with them this time. Shortly after, the first supply box of the day entered the displacement space. Obtained a can of iron-skinned yellow peaches. I was delighted. This is great, high in sugar, and can provide a lot of energy. While happily waiting for the second supply box, Newziku sent me a message. "Big brother, do you still have that spiny scale shrimp meat?" I was slightly taken aback. "How do you know the shrimp is called spiny scale shrimp?" In the illustrated guide, I discovered it by accident too. I immediately opened the guide, and indeed, there was a new creature. No wonder I always encounter them, hidden in the seaweed piles. It turns out their food is algae. But then a question popped into my mind. Why haven't others encountered the spiny scale shrimp? After some careful thought, I came up with a possibility. Could it be that I help the giant fish digest faster each time, so it is active much longer than other giant fish, thus swimming to the sea area where the spiny scale shrimp exist? It should be like this. It seems I'm already far ahead of others. However, this news does not make me happy. It even makes me a bit worried. The giant fish is getting farther from its birthplace, and it will encounter more and more marine creatures. If the giant fish swallows a marine creature I can't currently handle, I might be done for. Bro, this spiny scale shrimp meat is really good stuff. After eating it, you can gain a bit of strength, so I want to trade the blueprint I just got for another piece of spiny scale shrimp meat with you. Seeing this message, I was immediately stunned. Spiny scale shrimp meat can actually increase attributes. What blueprint did you get? The armor blueprint is called the Spiked Helmet, and it seems to be made from the shell of the spiked scale shrimp. I was delighted again. Isn't this a coincidence? It's a perfect match. Armor blueprints delivered right to my door. I chose to trade without hesitation and immediately checked it out. The spiked helmet requires 3 complete spiked shrimp shells and 5 pieces of cloth. I have just enough shrimp shells, but I don't have any cloth yet, so I decided to first see what today's supply box would yield. If I can't get any cloth, I'll trade for 5 pieces in the trading channel. Then I took out a piece of spiked shrimp meat from the supply box to try it, and surprisingly, it tasted pretty good. Ding! Consuming spiny scale shrimp meat increases strength by 1. After hearing the system prompt, I quickly opened the body attribute panel, and my strength had indeed increased by 1 point, but I didn't feel any change in my body. It should be because it only increased by 1 point, so it's not noticeable. 2 or 3 hours later, today's second supply box entered the displacement space. Ding! Obtained 10 stones, 10 pieces of wood, and 10 pieces of cloth. I was delighted. The cloth is here. Then I opened the spiny helmet blueprint and clicked to craft. 3 spiny scale shrimp shells and 5 pieces of cloth transformed into blue line. Soon a helmet with 3 spikes on top appeared in my hand. I tried it on and found the size just right. Then I took it off and carefully placed it in an empty supply box, planning to wear it when moving grass tomorrow. At this moment, New Ziku sent a message. Brother bye, I ate the spiny scale shrimp meat, but this time I didn't gain a strength point. I nodded unsurprisingly. It seems that the spiny shrimp meat only adds strength the first time you eat it. Then, in the message, Musiku revealed an embarrassed tone. Brother bye, the blueprint I just traded with you is quite rare. Could you add 1 more spiny shrimp meat? I originally only had 2, traded 1 with you, and ate the other myself. Tomorrow, if I can get more, I'll give you another one. I didn't mind much. After all, the armor blueprint is indeed more valuable than a piece of spiny scale shrimp meat. However, I can't be sure if New Ziku is telling the truth. It's possible he ate the second piece of spiny scale shrimp meat and still gained strength points, and is deliberately deceiving me. So, I will only trade the remaining piece of spiny scale shrimp meat to New Ziku after I eat it tomorrow, and confirm that it no longer adds strength points. Not long after, the sound of the sea surging came from the stone path, and today's last supply box arrived. Ding! Obtained 1 heating pack. I was delighted. Does this mean I can cook the spiny shrimp meat tomorrow? But I quickly dismissed the idea. No, this heating pack can only be used once. Using it to cook the only shrimp meat would be a bit wasteful. Upon waking again, it was already my 4th day in this world. The first thing I did was eat spiny shrimp meat for breakfast. New Zichu wasn't lying. Indeed, I couldn't increase my strength any further, which left me slightly disappointed. After a while, the giant fish started eating, and I put on the spiked helmet I made yesterday, waiting to transport seaweed. But at this moment, I unexpectedly heard the giant fish's soft voice. So annoying, why is it all this stuff? Always snatching my food. From the tone of the giant fish, it seems very angry. Probably because the spiny scale shrimp that also eat algae are competing with it for food. It looks like there will be a lot of spiny scale shrimp in the seaweed today, so I need to be careful when transporting the seaweed later. And it seems the giant fish has already swum to an area with a large number of spiny scale shrimp. Suddenly, the entire stomach space shook violently, then began to tilt, and finally almost stood upright. Caught off guard, I crashed into the flesh wall. Fortunately, the wall was soft, so aside from feeling a bit dizzy, I wasn't injured elsewhere. However, all the seawater in the algae breeding tank spilled out, and the supply boxes I had accumulated over the past few days were scattered everywhere. Then, I suddenly clung tightly to one of the supply boxes because it contained canned yellow peaches and heat packs, and these precious items must not be lost. At this moment, my mind was filled with questions and panic. What happened? Could it be that the giant fish was attacked by another creature? Although the giant fish is very large, in this unknown world, there's no guarantee it won't encounter even larger creatures that might attack it. Suddenly, with a bang, a thunderous explosion pierced through the giant fish's body and reached the stomach space. The intense sound waves swept over my entire body, and my head felt as if it had been struck hard, splitting with pain. Stealing my food, I'll swat them all away with my tail. The sudden voice of the giant fish's thoughts made me instantly aware of the cause of all the anomalies. Wow, it turns out it was swatting shrimp. At this moment, my anxious heart was relieved, and the stomach space had returned to normal. After resting for a bit, I propped up the algae cultivation tank. Although there was not much seawater left inside, fortunately, the giant fish was about to feed, so it would be replenished soon. I gathered the scattered supply boxes one by one. At this moment, the giant fish began to feed, and seawater rushed in. I immediately opened the system interface, found the algae breeding tank, clicked on repair, and the seawater automatically filled it. Then I started today's task of transporting seaweed, while being careful not to get pricked by the spiny scale shrimp. But after finishing the transport, to my surprise and delight, there were actually 10 dead spiny scale shrimp among the seaweed, clearly all killed by the giant fish. The sound of its tail swishing just now almost shook me to death, so you can imagine its power. Moreover, this is just the first round of feeding for the giant fish today, and it has already obtained 10. By the end of its feeding today, there should be at least 50 or 60 in total. However, I think if the spiny shrimp are just piled up like this, they will probably be washed away by the seawater in the next round. So, I thought of a solution, which is to make another algae cultivation tank and arrange them in a V shape against the stomach wall. The triangular area in the middle can be used to place the spiny shrimp. Having an extra algae cultivation tank doesn't hurt, as I have plenty of materials. The second round of feeding began quickly. I piled the spiny scale shrimp in the corner, using my body to shield them from the impact of the seawater. Then I opened the blueprint for the algae breeding tank and successfully built a second one. As planned, I arranged them in a V shape, perfectly surrounding the 10 spiny scale shrimp. And now it's the 4th day since I arrived in this world. While the giant fish was feeding, an unidentified creature several meters long appeared in the seawater, flowing into the stomach. To make matters worse, the flashlight's battery ran out at this moment, plunging the stomach space into complete darkness without any light. The next moment, the unidentified creature leapt out of the water towards me. I couldn't help but widen my eyes to see everything clearly, but it was in vain. The unknown fear magnified infinitely in the darkness. Suddenly, with a cracking sound, my head was abruptly